Welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. My name is George Wright III with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education so that you can create your ultimate destiny. I'm really excited today. We have an amazing individual on the podcast. I've been trying to get this set up for a little while now. So Noah, welcome to the Daily Mastermind podcast.
Well, thanks, George. It's great to be here with you.
Well, I'll tell you, we've got several mutual friends, and I know Nathan Osman introduced us and had nothing but great stuff to say about you. And since then, we've gotten to know each other a little bit. So let me, for those of my listeners that maybe have not read your books or seen you speak, let me do a little bit of an intro, and then we can jump right into it. So. So listen, everybody, we're really, really fortunate to have Noah on the podcast today. We've got some major value bombs we're going to be dropping. And Noah St. John's, author of 14 books, including the book of Affirmations and Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money. And these are amazing books. We'll talk a little bit later about how we can get you a free copy of his newest book. But Noah St. John's also known as the Power Habits Mentor, and he's famous for helping entrepreneurs, just like our listeners, get rid of their head trash and make more money. Now, he's the only author in history that's had works published by Hay House, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, Mind Valley, Nightingale Conant, and Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. But I'll tell you, he not only appears frequently on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, Parade Magazine, Entrepreneur.com, and the Huffington Post, but he has some amazing events and some events that I have recently become very interested in, and I'm hoping that we might be able to share some things with that as well. So, Noah, we really appreciate you being on. You've got some amazing background, and we're hoping to really get right into some great content for our listeners today. So thanks for being with us.
My pleasure, George. And it's a delight to be here with you today.
Well, listen, I've heard a lot about you, and you've even worked with some of my other partners and other businesses I have. So I've had for a while an interest in asking you a lot of questions. And before we get into, sort of your topics and some great value that you bring, what got you into the personal development space, business entrepreneur space? I mean, what is it? Give us just maybe a nugget on your background that really took you into this space in the first place.
I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood, and I know that's a total cliche, but it's totally true. I grew up in this little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which is, some of you may know, is the home of the Bushes, George H.W. and George W. Bush, their second home. And actually the Bush family was one of the founders of Kennebunkport. That's why the family has been very well known there.
Wow.
But anyway, that's where I grew up, in that little town, which is one of the wealthiest communities in New England. But my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally, because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents actually ended up losing.
Literally.
So the point is, I grew up, George, with a huge awareness of the chasm, the gap, the canyon between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community. The have-nots was my family.
Wow.
And so I hated that life of poverty and fear and lack and not enoughness. That's all I knew in my home growing up. But yet right down the street, literally, was wealth and abundance. So I was like, this sucks, because my parents worked really, really hard. They struggled, they sacrificed just to put food on the table, but they could just never seem to get ahead. So, we've all heard, well, the secret to success is hard work. Well, yeah, my parents worked really, really hard and never succeeded. So I knew that wasn't the answer. So I did the only thing that I knew how to do, because like I said, I hated that life. I hated being poor because, I saw other people had things like, money and food. Food was very important. We didn't have any food growing up. I'd open the refrigerator, there's never any food. So I'm like, I hate it. And so I did the only thing I knew how to do, which is I just went to the library and started reading books on personal growth, self-help, the classics, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey, all the classics. And I really, really tried to apply them. The problem was I couldn't seem to get it to work. It was so frustrating. So at the age of 25, I decided to commit suicide. I was just, I'd been working really hard for a long, long time with no success, and, just very, very stressed out and frustrated. And I just said, I'm done. And I decided to commit suicide. Well, at the very last moment, and I do tell the story in one of my books, but at the very last moment, my life was spared, and I decided to devote the rest of my life to serving God and serving humanity while I was still here on the earth.
Wow.
The only problem was I still didn't know I was here on the earth. So
wow.
I was like,
Yes.
Now what do I do? So then I went on another long journey. This was more of a spiritual journey. more of an inner journey. So that's when I started reading books from the spiritual leaders and thinkers of our time, people like Marianne Williamson, Louise Hay, Neil Donald Walsh, Ernest Holmes, and the spiritual thinkers. And then it was 5 years later after that experience that I finally realized why I'm here on the earth. And I was given, well, what I feel is my mission here on the earth, when in 1997, I had 2 epiphanies that changed my life. And that's what led to the work that I'm doing today. And, I have been doing for the last 20 plus years, helping people, as you mentioned in your opening, helping entrepreneurs and people who want to start their own business and grow their business to add, well, literally more than $2 billion in sales. And when I say that, what I mean is that, over the last 20 plus years, we've helped our coaching clients add 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, 7, and even 8 figures to their business. And what's really exciting about that is when you see people grow and be able to touch more lives and make more money, that's why we call it having a freedom lifestyle. We have events that are called Freedom Lifestyle Experience. And that's when we give people that experience of having that freedom lifestyle where you have you're making a difference and you're making great money doing it. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I'm so glad you did that. And for some of our listeners, just to kind of bring back some of those things you mentioned, many of the people that are hard hitting, hustling entrepreneurs are dealing with that whole, man, hard work is not equal to success right now. What's the deal here? I'm hustling, I'm working hard, and they are dealing with the anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. Those are things that are very common. So the reason I love to start there, and it's very interesting to find out about you, is that not only do some of the biggest lessons in life come from those situations, but people like to know that, these amazing, successful entrepreneurs like yourself didn't just, stumble into it, and that you have some of those same obstacles, which is what's created these lessons and things you've learned. So thank you for saying that. I also wanted to point out that I've been around a lot of thought leaders in this industry, as you know, and we've crossed paths many times, but I really have felt, since we've gotten to know each other, that your content and your information and your strategy and techniques is fueled by your personal mission to make this happen. I mean, I think that that's a good note for a lot of entrepreneurs, is that when you get behind your personal passions and mission, it really gives you a fuel. And I can sense that with you. So I appreciate that. That's really good to know. So let's jump into it. You say, that head trash is the number one reason so many entrepreneurs feel stuck. What is head trash, and how does that keep most people stuck in what they're doing?
Well, this is what I've been teaching, George. One of the concepts and principles that I've been teaching for these last 2 decades plus, to tens of thousands of people in over 120 countries, according to Google Analytics. And, that's our work is really worldwide.
Right.
And so what head trash is that voice in your head that says, I can't do it because ... And then what happens is you fill in the blank. And so, like, for example, people come to my live events, they come to my keynote speeches, and afterwards they come up to me and they say that they want me to sign their books or whatever it is, and they say, Noah, that really, really hit me, because I've been telling myself that I can't do it because I don't have the time. I can't do it because I don't have the money. I can't do it because I don't have the right connections. I can't do it because I didn't go to college, or I didn't go to the right college, or my parents were poor, or I'm married, or I'm not married, or I'm divorced, or I have kids, or I don't have kids. Do you see what I'm saying? See,
yeah.
We humans can always come up with a reason why we can't do things. And guess what? Here's the problem with that. You're always going to make yourself right. So for example, if you say, Noah, well, I can't do it because I don't have the time. Well, guess what? You're going to prove yourself right, because we humans have an infinite capacity to make ourselves right. And so the point is, if you're telling yourself that, whether it's on the conscious or the subconscious level, it doesn't matter. Most of the time, it does. Conscious, subconscious, doesn't really matter. But the point is, you're going to make yourself right. Meanwhile, I can show you that that's funny. Mark Cuban and Richard Branson and Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, they all have the same 24 hours as you and I. They haven't figured out how to make the earth rotate any slower. So there's no such thing as not enough time.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Or you say, well, no, I can't afford it. I don't have the money. Really? And so you're spending what on Netflix right now, and you're spending money on all, you're eating out all the time, and you're getting, these frappuccinos. I mean, I don't drink coffee, so I don't know what they're called, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, oh, that's funny. You have all of these holes where, money is going out, and yet you don't have the money to invest in yourself to, make these quantum leaps that you can have in your life and in your business. So do you see what I'm saying? So
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Your head trash is not just that you're telling yourself these things, but that you're always going to make yourself right.
Well, so I know you have some amazingly effective ways to help people to deal with that, but what's maybe a nugget you could share with us, one of the techniques or things that you do in order to help people, not only recognize that, but maybe sort of start to get unstuck around those beliefs?
Absolutely. So that's one of the epiphanies that I had, George, back in 1997. And I call it my Affirmations Method. And you can learn more about that at affirmations.com. Affformations. I'm not saying it wrong. Affirmations. Now, of course, everyone listening to this program has heard of affirmations, right? If you've ever read a self-help book, you know that every book tells you the same thing. Well, you use these statements, positive statements, or affirmations. So an affirmation is a positive statement of something you want to be true. So like, for example, at my live events, at my keynote presentations, when I'm speaking to, big network marketing companies or entrepreneur conferences around the world, one of the things I love to do is have everybody stand up and say, okay, now we're going to do the traditional affirmations method. Ready? Everybody say a traditional affirmation, I am rich. Ready? Everybody goes, I am rich. And you know what happens next? Everybody starts laughing. And I go, well, what are you laughing at? And they say, well, but I'm not rich. I said, but you just said you were. And they go, yeah, but I don't believe it. Aha. See, that's the problem.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with this statement. The problem is we don't believe the statement, right? That's what I call in my trainings and my programs and my coaching, I call it your belief gap. So you have a belief gap between the things you're saying and the things that you actually believe. And so, see, for many, many years, George, that was the thing. Because in every traditional success book, they say the same thing. That was, like what I shared earlier in my story. They all said the same thing. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm writing it. I'm doing everything they told me. How come it's not working? I was so frustrated. So I was actually in the shower one morning. It was April 1997. And in my books, I call it the shower that changed everything, right? Because we've all had those aha moments in the shower, right?
Sure. Yep.
And so in this particular shower literally changed my life and changed hundreds of thousands of lives around the world in the intervening years. But what happened was I was thinking about this. I'm thinking, how come I've been doing everything they told me to do and it's not working? And I said, what are we talking about here? We're talking about beliefs, because if you want to change your life, you got to change your beliefs. Now, I knew that part was true because I grew up with lousy beliefs about poverty and fear and lack and not enoughness. That's what I grew up with. So I gotta change my beliefs if I want to have abundance and wealth and have that freedom lifestyle. So I knew that part was true, but I'm like, well, maybe there's something they're not telling us. And I said, well, what is a belief? Well, a belief is just a thought. Okay, well, what is thought? And the more that I thought about that, I said, well, human thought is the process of asking and searching for answers to questions. For example, if I were to ask you, and everybody, listening to this, you can do this little exercise with me right now. If I were to ask you, why is the sky blue? Why is the sky blue? Well, you know what just happened in your brain? You started
trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Right. You started to search for the answer. It's like doing a computer search. Have you ever done a computer search? You're searching for a file or maybe a Google search, right? Well, your brain's like a computer. Your brain is like a search engine, right? Your brain is the most amazing search engine that's ever been devised, Right. And so you ask a question, your brain automatically searches for the answer, even if you don't know the answer. So, I just asked a question, why is the sky blue? Your brain's like, the sky's blue because I don't know, but it's looking, right? It's automatically searching. So I said, now, wait a second. If the human mind is automatically searching for answers to questions, why are we going around making statements that we don't believe?
Right.
Why don't we just cut out the middleman? And I said, well, I don't know. What would that look like? Well, let's see. This is a long shower, by the way. And I said,
I was going to say.
So I said, now, wait a second. Okay, you got this statement or affirmation, right? What they've been teaching us for decades, the old way. I am rich. And your brain says, yeah, right. That's why everybody laughs, right? Because your brain literally says, yeah, right. We don't believe it, right? Now, what they told us in traditional success surgery, well, if you don't believe your statement, just repeat it 1,000 billion kajillion times until you believe it. And for some people that worked just fine, but for millions of us, it didn't work at all. In fact, we ended up more frustrated than before, like me, So it's not unusual at all. People come up to me at my seminars, at my keynotes. They say, "Oh my gosh, no, I can't believe nobody ever said this before." I'm like, I know. So it's pretty exciting. So anyway, so that's the old way. So you say, "I am rich." Your brain goes, "Yeah, right." So I said, well, if that's the statement, then what would the question be? Why am I so rich? Why am I so rich? Now, when you ask that question, what immediately starts to happen in your brain?
You start to search for answers for why you would be.
Exactly.
Right.
You start to search for the answer. Now, what we're talking about here and what my Affirmations method is based upon is the law of sowing and reaping. As you sow, so shall you reap. Now, this, of course, is an ancient law. It's been taught for centuries. But what are we sowing? We're sowing seeds of thought. And yet, what are most people doing? Sowing lousy thought seeds. Why am I so stupid? Why am I so fat?
Right.
Why can I lose weight? Why isn't my business growing? Why aren't more people signing up with me? Why can't I get more clients? Why is there more a month left at the end of the money?
Right.
And when you ask lousy questions, what do you get?
Lousy answers.
Lousy answers,
right.
And that creates a lousy life. Now remember, nobody's doing this on purpose, but it doesn't matter because of the law of sowing and reaping. It doesn't matter if these questions are conscious or subconscious. The law, as you sow, so shall you reap. You're sowing and you're reaping. So I said, wait a second. What if instead of asking lousy questions that lead to lousy answers and create a lousy life, what if we just flip the whole thing on its head and start asking empowering questions that lead to phenomenal answers and create a wonderful life? And as I was standing there in the shower, April 1997, I said, holy cow, I think I just invented something. And so I had to give it a name, and the name that I gave it was Afformations, Afformations. And as I said, you can go to Afformations.com and learn more about my Affirmations method. Now, very briefly, let me just share with you that the word affirmation comes from the Latin word firmare, which means to make firm. Now, the word Afformations that I invented and trademarked, and as you know, as we all know, it's sometimes when you have a new way of looking at the universe or new technology, sometimes we need a new word, right?
Right.
For example, webinar, Facebook, YouTube, Google,
right.
Software, computer. These are new words in terms of human history. They've only been around a very, very short amount of time when we look at human history. And yet, of course, now we use them every single day. It's new technology, a new word to describe it. Well, what I'm teaching, what I teach at my seminars, my keynote presentations, and with my coaching clients, I teach a new technology of the mind. And so Afformations comes from the Latin word formare, which means to form or give shape to. So what I often ask my coaching clients and in my presentations, I often say to my audiences, what if you're making something firm, but it's in the wrong form?
Wow.
That means you formed a life you didn't want. Why am I so stupid? Why am I so fat? Why isn't my business growing? Why don't I have enough money? You formed it unconsciously, but nevertheless, the law of sowing and reaping works anyway. So now, using my Affirmations method, for the first time in human history, we can take conscious control of the questions that we're asking, change your questions, and change your life.
I love that. I love that because this really is probably one of the number one things entrepreneurs have a problem with is I'm stuck, right? But their tools for managing this are so grounded in techniques that don't work for them, because if you're affirming beliefs that you do not internally believe, it pretty much stops your thought process. And we talk all the time on this podcast about your thoughts creating your life, and where do your thoughts come from? They come from, these questions you're asking yourself. And if you are trying to affirm things you don't believe, I mean, it kind of stops the process. So this whole idea of forming the right questions and forming the right thought processes, I love that, because I think that's something people can really use to move forward with their life. And man, I'll tell you, I know I could, I know our time's limited, and I could go on and on about a whole bunch of things that I love about that concept there. But I love that, and we'll be talking some more at the end of this on how individuals can kind of get into some of that training with you and talk a little bit more about it. So thank you for that thought. I think that's very unique. It's definitely one of the things that separates you from a lot of the thought leaders out there, because a lot of the thought leaders, we talk about the fact that many of the tried and true tested formulas for success have been the same for a long period of time. So they're not questioned at all. They're, and a lot of them are great, and they're universal, but sometimes we just need to find ways to direct our mind in a different way, and that's definitely one of those things, and I love that. So let's jump into, you also talk about hidden connections between habits and money, and what is that hidden connection and why is it so important? And that's one of the things I definitely wanted to hit with you on this as well. Could you kind of speak to that a bit?
Yes, absolutely. So what I teach, and the reason that my clients over the last 20 years have made so much money, literally over $2 billion, in sales, adding that multiple 6 and 7 and 8 figures, is exactly this point right here, the hidden connection between your habits and your money. And so what that means is, what I teach is inner game and outer game. Okay. So if you think about two circles that are sort of joined together, right? One circle is the inner game. All right. Now, inner game is everything that happens between your ears that you can't see directly, but you see the effects of it everywhere. So for example, in my keynote presentations or at my, freedom lifestyle events, and with my clients, one of the things I say is, show me one area of your life that's not affected by your beliefs. And of course, everybody kind of looks around, they scratch their head and they go, there's no area that's not affected by my beliefs. And I go, exactly. That's the point, right? Everything in your life is affected by your beliefs, your health, your money, your business, your social life, your relationships. There's literally no area of your life that you can point to that's not affected by your beliefs. Okay, that's the inner game. Everything you can't see directly, but that affects everything else, right? Mm-hmm. And then that's the inner game. And then we have the outer game. Now, the outer game is everything you can see. It's right in front of your face. That's your habits, your lifestyle. In your business, it would be your systems, your strategies, your sales pages, your lead magnets, your sales funnels, and all that marketing stuff that you've probably spent a lot of time, money, and effort working on. The problem is that when you're only focused on outer game and you're missing that inner game component, that's when so many people feel stuck. I'll give you a quick example. I was speaking at an event for about 1,000 entrepreneurs in Los Angeles. And I just finished speaking. I was walking off the stage and a man came up to me. He practically, grabbed me and he said, "Noah, you are the coach that I've been looking for." And now I didn't know this man from Adam. Ironically, his name was Adam. Mm-hmm. And so I said, "Okay, well, what's going on?" He says, "Noah, I'm totally stuck. I'm only making $4 million a year." Now, of course, I had to laugh. I said, "Yeah, right. Yeah, gee, that's funny. A lot of people like to be stuck," with air quotes, "at $4 million a year, right?" He goes, No. You don't understand. I own a software company. We grew to $4 million in sales like really fast, but we have been stuck at the same $4 million over the previous 4 years. 4 years we've been just stuck, flatline, plateaued. And he says, "I have thrown so much money at this. I've hired every guru." He named all the marketing gurus out there. He says, I've spent all this money, but we are still stuck. And he said, "As soon as I heard you speak about head trash and inner game and your foot on the brake and affirmations, everything you just said," he said, "I knew you're the coach I've been looking for." Long story short, he hired me as his coach. I coached him for about 2 years. And in that 2-year period, George, his company went from being stuck at $4 million in revenues for the past 4 years to over $20 million in revenues in less than 18 months. Now, wow. How did that happen? Well, do I have a magic wand? No, I don't. What I did was we really worked on his inner game. He had spent all that time, money, and effort. He just, he told me that on all this outer game stuff. It's not that it's wrong. It's just that if you don't master your inner game, it's very, very likely that you're going to have what I call your foot on the brake, meaning you're really, really working hard to go towards your goals, but at the same time, you are unknowingly, unconsciously, unwittingly holding yourself back. That's why at our Freedom Lifestyle Experience, which is a 2-day transformational summit, day 1 is all about inner game mastery. We start with inner game because that's where people are stuck. It's not that they need all this marketing stuff. I mean, it's important. You got to do it. But guess what? You probably spent a lot of time, money, and effort on that. But yet, no,
but that's usually the starting point, right? I mean, I was going to mention the thing I love about that, and I completely, wholeheartedly agree with that, is no matter where our listeners are at or where individuals are at, whether they're stuck at 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, wherever it is, wouldn't you say, and it sounds like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like it always boils back to your inner game, because that's where you're stuck or you're limiting thoughts and things that lead to your actions are, right? I mean, that it doesn't matter where you're at. That's where you go back to make that transformation. Is that what you're saying?
We talk at Freedom Lifestyle Experience and with my coaching clients, we talk about 3 major milestones as an entrepreneur. The first major milestone is when you make your first $10,000 online from your online business. That's when you are a real entrepreneur. The second major milestone is when you're at $100K a year. That's when you're making about $10,000 a month. That's when you are considered an expert. And then the third major milestone is when you're at $1 million, meaning you made your first $1 million, online, offline, with the combination, and that's when you're an influencer. So we look at those 3 different milestones. There are different things you have to do to get to each one. Now,
Gotcha.
everybody says, "Oh, I just want to get to $1 million."
Yeah.
No kidding. We all want to have the result without doing the work, right?
Gotcha.
But you got to, we call it going down the yellow brick road. You got to lay one brick at a time. You got to do that annoying, non-sexy work that nobody's willing to do. Everybody wants to do all the sexy stuff, but guess what? I've had people come to my events, George, and they've spent tens of thousands of dollars on all this marketing stuff, and they're stuck. They're broke. We had one woman who was $60,000 in debt because she'd spent all this money and all this other stuff. And I said, oh my gosh, we just got to go back to the basics. Long story short, I coached her for about a year, 18 months. She went to a 6-figure income after being $60,000 in debt in less than a year. 6 figures.
Well, I can completely.
With her inner game and outer game.
There's no question. I mean, after decades of being in the industry of financial education and marketing and sales, I can tell you that most people think that their success levels are, and it's not that marketing and sales and financial, planning don't add to that, but that's why individuals can earn millions of dollars a year and then go bankrupt and broke and have problems, is that no matter what, it always comes back to the various levels of habits and inner game you have working. And so I totally agree that that's where it starts. I like how you said that, though, about there are different levels and different maybe habits and thoughts you have to go through in order to get to those levels and then break through those levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's so, I can't just say, well, for everybody, it's all, inner game. 90% of the time, yeah, that's where,
right,
and that's where we start in Freedom Lifestyle Experience and with our coaching clients. And then on day 2 is outer game mastery, because you've got to have your sales pages, your lead magnets, your funnels, all that stuff.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
But if you don't put them both together, the classic example that I give, talking about that, are people like John Belushi, Chris Farley, Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe. These were people who were rich and famous, had everything.
Robin Williams, on and on, right?
Exactly, because for this exact reason, Robin Williams, because, no one took the time, sadly, to help them with their inner game, and, they're gone. And so, we, of course, don't want it to be that serious, but these are examples that people can point to and say, wow, how did that happen? Well, here's why it happened. And of course, we don't want it to happen to anyone else.
Well, what's great about what you're saying, and I think the people that are listening right now know this about me, is that you and I are very much aligned, as we've talked about, that it is a combination of both the inner game strategies and the outer game strategies. And people are starting to learn more and more, because it has been in the past, people are so focused on the money, they don't look at their habits. They don't look at their inner game. And this is something that I am a big believer in, as something that I can completely endorse. And I love about what's unique about the way you train, is that it isn't just inner game personal development, and it's not just the financial strategies. You really do an effective job at your events and through your training and even your books that I've gone through on really combining the two, because there are places people can go and get one side of that equation, and there's places they can go to get the other, and they're great resources. But it's that strategic alignment that really creates a huge benefit for individuals. And I know we're kind of getting short on time, but I think we've really explained a lot of the reasons you are just different from, a lot of the people out there. But do you feel like, and this is a question I've been kind of curious to get your take on, do you feel like, in addition to the content, and there's different types of ways people learn, that these live events are also things that are critical, or just things that are just experiences that you feel can add to someone's learning, having those live experiences like your Freedom, lifestyle events?
I can give 2 answers to that. I can trace every quantum leap that I've taken in my life, my business, to a conversation, a relationship, or a strategy that I had at a live event. So in other words, because I've been attending live events for over 20 years, because I've been in business a long time. And so I can trace every quantum leap. I mean, from having connections that literally changed my life to saying, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. Let me put that in my business and so forth. So that's number one. And then number two, when we look at the people that I've been able to work with, people like Adam and Susan and Tim, and I mean, just on and on and on, they have also attended my live events, the Freedom Lifestyle Experience. And so that there's no substitute for it. And see, of course, online is wonderful, and I have dozens of online programs and products, and I've got books and things like that, but there is just no substitute for getting together with a room of like-minded individuals from around the world, and that way you are exposed to different ways of looking at, your own issues, problems, frustrations, desires, things that maybe you've been just like facing for maybe years.
Right.
And you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought it could be so easy. I never saw it that way. Well, of course you didn't, because you're too close to it. So
yeah, well, that's why I bring that up, because
live experience.
I tell you, I've, as you know, I mean, we through the events that I've been a part of or marketed or held, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people around the world have been to. I'm a big proponent of that, because I think there's all kinds of different education you can have, but that intensive, hands-on live experience, you're more focused and things like that. So one of the reasons I bring that up is I love the fact that you are so giving with your content, your information. I'd love for you, we just got a couple minutes left here, I'd love for you to share, and I appreciate you being willing before the podcast to do this. I'd love for you to share where someone could maybe get a copy of your new book for free, and then additionally, maybe find some more information about your events. If you could do that here in the last couple of minutes, I would really appreciate it. I know our listeners would eat it up and feel real good about it. Absolutely. So to get my new book, it's called Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money: How to Avoid the 3 Big Money Mistakes Even Smart People Make. And I know everyone listening to this program is very smart, but you may be making one or more of these mistakes without even realizing it. All you have to do is go to sendmeabooknoah.com. Very easy to remember. Sendmeabooknoah.com, and I will send you the book for free. Now, normally is $19.95 if you buy it on Amazon or a bookstore, but I have paid for the book. We just ask you to cover the shipping. So it's sendmeabooknoah.com. Very easy to remember. And then for our Freedom Lifestyle Experience live events, because you're listening to this program right now, you can actually bring a friend for free. So when you get your ticket, you can also bring a friend for free, because we want you to have that experience of being there with your spouse or business partner, your colleagues. And also you can bring your teenagers for free when you go to the page. It's freedomlifex.com. So Freedom Life, L-I-F-E, and then the letter X. So freedomlifex.com. And you can just watch some of the videos. We've got, just incredible transformations that have happened right at my live events. We've literally had, and you can watch the videos, we've literally had people do $1 million deals at my events. They didn't even wait to go home, and they're doing $1 million deals. So freedomlifex.com. No, I love that. And thank you so much for that. I'm going to put that in our show notes as well, because I think getting a copy of your new book is an absolute must for everyone. Going to sendmeabooknoah.com. We'll put those in the show notes. And then also your event. I'm looking forward to it, because I know we've got a lot of different projects we're going to be doing, but I plan on going to the Freedom Lifestyle Experience here in, I think there's a Vegas event coming up in July. And so I'll put that in the show notes as well. I think that's a great opportunity for individuals. I definitely think that having that, sort of block out your schedule, go get immersed inside some of the training education, but getting the experience is so critical. So Noah, thank you so much for being part of the podcast. I have so many questions. We're just going to have to bring you back again, because we have so many things going on. I know you're going to be working with us at some of our events and things. So thank you for being part of this today. Thank you for the gifts for the listeners. And is there anything else that you would add here before we let you go?
I would just love to see everybody at one of our live events, as we were just discussing. There just is no substitute for that, and we will take great care of you. And you can bring your teenagers for free. So you can bring a guest for free, but also anyone in your household between the ages of 11 and 19, you can also bring for free. When you get to that page, you'll see that we've had parents who brought their kids, and their very, very first event was one of my events, a Noah St. John event, which of course meant so much to me that they trust me with their kids. That means the world. So again, that's freedomlifex.com. We'd certainly love to see you at one of our events.
That's great. Thank you so much. And listen, for those of you listening, share this episode with friends you think that may benefit from this. And like we always talk about, successful people take action. take advantage of these free offers. This is we should be charging you for this. This is great content, great information. So thanks everybody for listening. Glad that you were making us a part of your daily rituals for success. And if you haven't downloaded the mobile app, the Daily Mastermind mobile app on iTunes or Google Android Marketplace, do that. We'll put some of this in the show notes. Once again, my name is George Wright III. Looking forward to working with you and talking with you again tomorrow. Thanks everybody and have a great day.